Thanks very much, Christy. Good evening, everybody. Thanks very much to the Engineers of Ireland South East for inviting me for this presentation on the O&M operations and maintenance that we carry out. Just a quick introduction on myself. I joined BAM Civil in 2006 as a graduate and worked in civils and building projects up to 2016. And I moved over to the operations and maintenance side of the business, and that's where I've been since. A quick overview of what we're going to go through tonight. We'll look at asset management, what that is, and life cycle intervention out of that. We'll look at emergency response. We'll look at winter maintenance. We'll look at routine maintenance. So to introduce you to an introduction of the schemes that we look after. So we look after the N7 N11 Arklow Rathnew PPP scheme. That consists of 46 kilometres of motorway on the M11, roughly from junction 18 to junction 23. And we're also involved with Newlands Cross flyover. The N7 N11 scheme was divided into 4 sections. It was Section A, which is the newly constructed and opened in 2015. We had Section B, which would have been the Gorey and Arklow bypass, which would have been opened in 2009 and 1988, respectively. Then we had the Gorey motorway service area interchange, and then we had the Newlands Cross. We also involved in the M11 Gorey to Ennsicorthy PPP scheme. This is a joint venture with Iridium, who are our Spanish partners. This scheme opened in 2019, and that consists of 26 kilometre motorway along the M11 from junction 24 down to Oildgate roundabout, for those who are familiar with the area, and also 4 kilometres of dual carriageway, which runs from the M11 back into the N80 interchange there just north of Ennsicorthy. In 2020 then we took over the operation and maintenance of the N25 New Ross bypass, which consists of 5 kilometres dual carriageway along the N30, 10 kilometres dual carriageway on the N25, and then in the southern half of that project then obviously with the famous Rose Fitzgerald Kennedy Bridge. So as I said, we start off with asset management as to what that is. So what are assets on a motorway? Assets are every element of the scheme that make up the overall motorway. So that consists of your pavement, your fencing, structures, vehicle restraint systems, landscaping, drainage, road studs, etc. It's our job to look after those, and we've got those contracts for 25 years. And how we look after those systems is how they're managed, a routine maintenance management system, or RMS for short. This is a system that's set up online that allows us to put up all the assets for all the schemes there, and they're all recorded. We then carry out our inspections on these assets right the way through. And we create defects on the assets. As you can see in the photograph here, that's not how a safety barrier should look. So we've got a defect on the asset. And we start to create those. And there's a categorization for each defect. In the instance of this vehicle restraint system, that is an imminent risk to the road user. What you'll hear me use throughout the course of the presentation is the safety of the road user. That's our #1 priority. So all the assets are managed and looked after and inspected, and defects are created, all with the overall view of making sure that the safety of the road user is looked after at all times. So I said to talk about life cycle intervention. I just put up there, make it last, which was something I was told growing up constantly when I got something. So our aim is to make each asset reach its full potential of its design life, so make it last. And I've just written down some average design life for key assets that we found in our experience. I want to make a point that I'm not contradicting manufacturers or productions or designers. In our experience so far to date of managing our schemes, we look at road signage, you get an average of 10 years before it starts to fade off, starts to reach the end of its design life. SMA pavement in our wearing course, we're looking at about 15 years. Of course, that's dependent on the environment that it finds itself in. On the M11, which our works are on, we wouldn't have as high a traffic volumes as we would have in the Dublin belt area, the M50 sections. Obviously, they would have to assess how long they get, depending on the HGV movements and the traffic flows that they would have. We've road studs then again, which are the new prison type or prison type road studs. You're looking at an average of 15 years before they start to reach the end of their design life. And then you've road markings, which we would look at about 6 years. All these assets, again, are incredibly important to the safety of the road user at all times. Again, I just kind of put up here that PPP projects are programmed for interventions to ensure that we get to the end of the job. So as you can see here in the image, we want to be the pit crew team to keep that car racing all the way through till it gets to the end line. You certainly don't want to be the guys on the right-hand side trying to drag that car across the race line in the end line in poor condition. So as part of that, then proactive maintenance is the key. You don't want to be reacting to your problems that you're finding out there. You want to be out there ahead of your problems and starting to get through. So I've thrown up here something that's common to everybody and everybody knows is pavement, looking at scrim, but obviously scrim is a very important part of the safety of the road user. It's your skid resistance. That's incredibly important when people are using it. They want to stop. Our skid resistance needs to be at a level that's safe for each road user to use it. As you can see here in the graph in the top right-hand corner of the screen, you can see you start off on the left-hand side, you have excellent, good, fair, poor, and very poor, and over the timeline. And then you've got your failure from 0 to 100%. So over time, your pavement starts to drop off. As you can see in the right-hand side, it's excellent, you're doing nothing. You're just carrying out cyclical maintenance. As it starts to drop off, you get into maintain, which is good to fair. As you can see there on the table, you're looking at reactive maintenance, typically joint sealing, pothole repairs as such. And then as it starts to get worse, you're looking at fair to poor rehabilitation. That can consist of, as I've written down here, if your skid resistance can be your shot blasting to improve or extend the life and delayed replacement interface works. Also very important is any cracks along your pavement, along your road need to be filled quite quickly so you don't have water ingress, which does become a problem during the winter months. And obviously at the very end then, subject to other inspections apart from scrim, if it's getting very poor and you're starting into pavement reconstruction and your asset has reached the end of its design life. So I've taken an extract over contract for our skid and pavement testing. So as you can see, that if you can follow me best you can, you've got the lane survey method. So we've taken an example here is scrim, and then you've got the survey category HD 2804. You've got the survey frequency with lane 1 and lane 1 and slips are done every year, and lane 1 hard shoulder, lane 2 and 3 are done every second year. And then you've got your, as a performance drops off, you've got your investigatory levels. When it drops to a certain level, you're carrying out investigations to see is this going to cause a problem for the safety of the road user. And then you've got your minimum performance levels, and this is where you don't want to be, and if you are, then you've got to carry out intervention works. And then at the end of our project, that's the 25 years, we have to hand back all our assets to a minimum performance level to the authority, so they take it on from here. I've just thrown in commercial aspects to say what goes on with these pipes. You've got lane closures for these works. You've got the duration of those lane closures. All these items you have to carry out. You may see us out on the road and you're wondering why we're carrying out work at certain times. For lane closures, you're looking at the surrounding environment, traffic flows, direction of traffic, and you've got to carry out your works where you're not having an impact on the road user. You've got duration of works, which again may attract may affect your traffic flows of your client, which is your road users, the overall client. And then obviously I've written here non-availability charges. So as part of our PPP scheme projects, as we carry out lane closure charges, if we close them and lanes don't become available, there's charges to that. Each charge depends on the time of day you do it at and the duration you do it at, etc. And if we don't follow those items, you've got penalties. And I've written a note down for myself that someone said, mind the pennies and the pounds look after themselves. Well, if you lose enough pounds, no one really cares about the pennies. So to move on to emergency response, which is another element of the works we do. This is image here is usually when you see this, you're being diverted off or you're going to be delayed. Well, our guys are usually in the middle of this and we've got to get involved. All our staff are local workers. So the local workers serving the community, and the common theme for them at all times when they approach an incident like this, it's facing the unknown behind the flashing lights. Anybody can be an incident. They can be family members of the people involved, and you never know how those things are going to work out for you. So the primary role of the O&M Co, as I said, is to maintain the safety of the road user. And that's maintaining all those assets that you can see in the image on the right-hand side to make sure that you guys, when you're going on your journey to work, can get there in a safe manner and not be worried about the state of the road. So as part of our works, we're constantly communicating with Gardaí, emergency services, fire services, etc. But we also deal with the Motorway Traffic Control Centre, or MTCC. So they're a TII body. We're centralised, and we ring in and contact with them when we're going out to deal with an incident, whether that be a road traffic incident, whether it be clearing up debris, whether it be dealing with whatever we find along the way. We're constant contact with these guys at all times to inform them when we've got there, when we're finished. And also it's a two-way street. They can ring us at any time, any day, and inform us of an incident and ask us to go out and have a look. So the types of emergencies, so we have our road traffic incidents, or TIs. We can, as you can see in the image in the right-hand corner, again, any of these images are not designed to affect anybody who's been in a road traffic incident. It's just to show what our guys deal with and what we deal with from an O&M co, you hear me say, operations and maintenance perspective. So we can have flooding along the road, which we must deal with. We have environmental issues along the road that we must deal with. We can have spillages along the road at any time that we must have the resources and the plans and systems in place to deal with these. And we can find debris on the road at any time, as you can see in the photograph in the lower left. This is where just a bale of straw or hay has managed to fall off a trailer and it's burst all over the verge. And suffice to say, that person didn't stop to give us a hand. We also, you can't have instances of live animals on the road that we must deal with. So that can be from pets to agricultural livestock. That's something you have to be constantly monitoring at all times. And then we have incidents of fire then as well that we have to keep an eye on. So here's some further images of incidents that we can deal with. So you're going from, you're keeping lanes open as much as you can in your left-hand photograph. You've got a center one, which is a poor incident. Again, these images are not out there to upset people or annoy people, but that's the images our guys have to deal with on a daily basis. And on the right-hand side, then, these kind of accidents that block an entire carriageway, and we have to have plans in place, traffic management in place, emergency procedures in place to divert traffic and keep people moving at all times. So as I said, to move on emergency response, and obviously we've got the time frame to deal with the incidents. So each contract has is individual hours as we've an hour to get to an incident in 8 to 6 p.m. Peak Monday to Friday. We must get there. We must assist and resolve the issue. Outside of those times, you have an hour and a half to get to those incidents and to help the emergency services as much as you possibly can. As I said, we're dealing with An Garda Síochána, fire service and ambulance. Again, road closures where necessary. I've written this in here for our number one rule for all our staff when they come to our job, when they start with us, is they must protect themselves before they help others. It'd be very easy for us to run out with our Superman capes and try and help out in an incident and find ourselves in bother also. I've written in here as well that although we're engineers and our job is the system to build a project, finish the project, maintain the project, get it back on time in good condition to the client. But there's a human element to our process where we have RTIs can be traumatic. You just don't know what incident you're going to find. We don't know what incident our guys are going to find. While the Gardaí, fire services, or the first responders often can be the case where we're first on the scene. So I just wanted to point out that we have a 24/7 confidential helpline that for all our guys that are daily employee assistance program at all times. It's a confidential system. They don't have to come to me as the operations and maintenance manager. They don't have to come to their supervisor. But it is a part of the job that I didn't see when I came from a construction, civils and building background when I moved over, that there's also potentially a collateral damage from dealing with incidents like this. But to move into winter maintenance, another element of what we do, winter maintenance runs from the 1st of October to the 15th of May every year. As you can see in the left-hand side and the right-hand side photographs, we've shown images of the vehicles we have to deal with the winter maintenance. On the left-hand side, that's a demountable pre-wet unit, which carries a pre-wet operations on the M11 and N25. On the right-hand side, you can see those trucks they're brine fully wet systems that we use on the N7 N11 Arklow Rathnew scheme. So part of winter maintenance every day is to make treatment plans. So throughout this network, we have weather stations, which are operated by Vaisala. We have an agreement with TII that we have access to these stations to carry out our treatment plans. As you can see in the vehicles down below, that's a fully wet unit working in on the N7 and N11. On the right-hand side, it's a nice picture we managed to pick up of the same vehicle going across the Rhodes Fitzgerald Kennedy Bridge back in January 20 when it opened. As part of our contract obligations, we don't wait until it's going to freeze. If our road surface temperature shows that it's going to get below or equal to 1 degree, we have to carry out interventions. So how do we go about shaping our treatment plans? So as I said, we use the Visalis system, which is basically subsidized with Met Éireann, give their forecast. That's then is fed into the site data, then which gives us forecasts, which we can carry out treatment plans. As you can see here, this is an image I took last week from our, this is Area 8, Section 8, which is Wexford, Wicklow and Waterford. So I know all the local authorities use the same system we do to carry out our winter maintenance treatment plans. So you can see down along the left-hand side of your elements that you need to be watching out for: ice, frost, snow, hail, fog, strong wind and rain. And then you can see the yes, no, like what they think it's going to happen or not, and the confidence that Met Éireann have in that looking to happen. So when we have our forecast, then we move to our Visala weather stations, and we have graphical images from these. So this image here is from M11 Arklow. This is on the M11 Gorey Ennsicorthy scheme. So the 3 lines on the graph, the red line is the surface temperature at the weather station, the blue line is the air temperature, and the green line is the dew point temperature. What we're looking for obviously is the road surface temperature and how low it's going to get. If that starts to move down towards 0 and gets below 1 degree, obviously we're carrying out a treatment plan. What we're also keeping an eye out for is the dew point temperature. If the dew point temperature drops below the road surface temperature, your road surface temperature is below 1 degree, you're going to get moisture on the road, it's very likely you're going to get a frost. So out of that, then we produce our treatment plans, what we're going to do, what we're going to go to the road to do. Our number 1 aim carrying out winter maintenance service is precautionary. That's an anti-icing rather than de-icing. We want to get out and put a layer of treatment on the road and prevent the ice from forming or the frost forming, rather than trying to react and remove the ice or the frost from the road. So to move it on further, then we have precautionary treatments, as I said. On the right-hand side, you can see the treatment matrix guide, which shows you the dry salting, pre-wet salting, and brine salting or brine treatment. They're the 3 systems or treatment systems we use in our network. As you can see there in the left-hand column of the table, there's a road surface temperature is at or above -2 degrees. You've got your 11 grams for dry salting, your 9 grams for pre-wet. Pre-wet, just a quick one, is a mixture of brine is salty water, and dry salt that puts out a kind of a slurry on the road. And then we've got the fully wet, which is spread in milliliters per meter square as opposed to grams. On top of that, then obviously snow can happen. We have snow plows on our vehicles, and depending on how bad it is, we may need to call in additional resources. All this is wrapped up in our winter maintenance strategy. That's something that we have to keep an eye at all times. So for winter maintenance, then we have our risk to staff. Our risk to staff is that at all times those guys are alone working out in their vehicles, but they're in constant communication with the other people who are out there. All our networks have 2 drivers, 2 trucks out every night, and they're in constant contact to let each other know that they're okay. Again, it's another element of the job that I wasn't familiar with when I moved across, or would not have been familiar with until time passed by. But it's something we have to think of. And the reason I put in lessons learned, although we have our weather stations, although we have our forecasts, as you move along the parts of the road, depending on the environment, you can have very different weather patterns. If you're in a cutting along a motorway, you're going to be in a colder section of area because the temperatures are not, it's cooling down quicker there, it's more shade. You've got bridges, which can be at a height, can be obviously bridges exposed on all sides. This can cause problems then because the road surface temperature drops far quicker than you may be in other parts of the network. And then you've shaded areas where along the Arklow bypass, the vegetation is a lot more, and the landscape is a lot more developed. And this can cause the frosts that hang around longer, or not so much that, but the road surface temperature to keep dropping, even though the forecast will show it start to rise up because of the sun going up or the daytime temperatures. But if you're in a shaded area, it'll keep dropping and keep dropping. So we're constantly carrying out patrols to keep an eye on this. I just wanted to take a quick look through the beast from the east, just to give you a taste. So when all the other jobs were shutting down to go home, we were going out to deal with the snow. Just a quick, the reason this image is here, you may say, where's the snow? This was the image on the Thursday afternoon when everyone else had a foot of snow. This was about 4 o'clock in the evening and we'd no snow. We thought we were going to get away with it until tomorrow morning. And then we had this. So obviously you're starting to carry out a lot of ploughing, you're carrying out a lot of treatments, trying to get the roads back that it's safe for everybody to use, and try and maintain it that everybody to use. Because even though people were sent home, if emergency services need to move around, you've got hospitals along the eastern corridor from Wexford right up to Dublin that need to move around. And that's it. In a couple more hours in other parts of the network, you may say this is impassable, but where you're seeking plough, you've got about 10 to 15 millimeters of snow there, but you're trying to constantly keep it off. As you can see, the wall in the center, that's the median concrete median barrier. So that's about 900 mil high. So you can see you've got a quite amount of snow starting to fall in a small space of time. And then this is where you're trying to get back again, your black top starting to come through, you start to make it safe for the road people to use it and get up along the corridor. And this image here, as you may say, it's a very poor photograph. It is a poor photograph, but that's the conditions that our guys had to drive through. That's the vision they had, and they tried to keep moving. I just throw it up there because as difficult as we might find it for ourselves to do our job, if you're out there trying to do this kind of job in these kind of conditions, it becomes very, very difficult. So to move on to routine maintenance. So apart from all the above, this is our day-to-day stuff, our routine bread and butter, if you will. Our everyday tasks that must be carried out is we've litter control throughout the network. We've removal of debris constantly. We have grass cutting operations that run from around April to about November. You've got weed control constantly throughout both invasive species and native species, trying to make sure they don't establish themselves on the road. And then we've got drainage maintenance that are carried out throughout the year. So to carry out our routine maintenance, we have inspections on the PPP scheme that allow us to create defects and create jobs, and allow us to record them and make sure that they're raised and closed out. So we have safety patrols that must be carried out minimum weekly. Every day we're out patrolling the road, but these are recorded inspections where you're basically raising defects on your assets as you find them. We have safety inspection, which is a more detailed inspection. It's a 2-person operation moving along. That's in every 2 weeks. And then we've overseer inspections, which are to do with structures. So you're carrying out a drive-through of the network, looking at your structures, looking at your parapets, looking at your pavements, looking at all the elements that you can see from the vehicle on a weekly basis. On top of the overseer inspection, we obviously some of you may not be familiar with, we also have the airspan system, which is a TI centralized bridge maintenance system, which we must also feed into. So we carry out annual routine inspections by, usually we put them out-house to a professional service who carry out structural inspections both on an annual basis for a routine inspection, and then we have principal inspections which are carried out on a maximum every 6 years. So to move on, we're not getting too bogged down. So for litter and debris control, so I just put down the routine to the unexpected. So when our guys go out there picking litter, and one of the guys asked me the first day what you needed, I said, well, you need a litter picker and you need a load and shovel, because you can pick up sweet wrappers to caravans. This is hard. I don't know whether you find this hard to believe or not, but this is the kind of stuff that we find that's left on the motorway. That's for us to clean up. I just put in hotspot areas because something we've noticed over the last while is people are coming onto the motorway, and the level of litter at the junctions where they start to come back away from their shops, from their service stations, and they just see fit to throw it out along the motorway for us to tidy up. So some other routine maintenance works, obviously with the remedial works that we're carrying on a day-to-day basis. I've got damaged from burnt out vehicles written down here. As you can see a picture in the top right-hand corner where a vehicle is burnt out. So you can see that the filter drain along the edge of the pavement is scorched and is contaminated. So this needs to be replaced. And we've got the pavement is scorched as well, and the road marking has been scorched. So this is a routine maintenance work that needs to be carried out to replace. I've also got removal of graffiti. Usually people like to spray up bridges. That's a quite important thing for us to remove, because the nature is of graffiti, depending on what it is, can be offensive to people, and something that our clients ultimately being the PPP Co, and then being the TII, is take it very serious. All forms of graffiti are moved quite quickly. I just wanted to put in here removal of third-party signage. And the reason I wanted to throw it up is because for any people who may have put up some sporting event signage, wishing their local soccer, rugby, G18 the best of luck, on a parapet of an overbridge or along the motorway and then found out it disappeared. It probably has disappeared because we've taken it, because we have to. We can't leave any signage that's not part of the motorway network up there, and we must take it away. So if you see anything, any of your local GA teams or rugby or soccer teams are complaining about their lovely banner gone, give us a call, and we're more than likely it's in our depot. Again, promotion, advertising, local events coming up to Christmas now. We've got a lot of signage along the road starting to appear for various different Christmas events. Unfortunately, again, we have to remove these because the reason being they're a distraction to the road user. If you're traveling at 120, 110 kilometers per hour in any direction, and if someone slows down to have a look because they want to see what date Santry train is running in Wicklow Town at, and all of a sudden then you got a 4-car pile up. So this is the reason behind that. And one that I've no problem taking down is election posters. We take notes. We don't mind taking those. So another one I wanted to just point out is abandoned vehicles. This can happen along any section of motorway. People abandon their vehicles for whatever reason, whether it be breakdown, whether it's a stolen vehicle. I just want to highlight that these vehicles then must be removed in coordination with the Gardaí. We cannot move a vehicle without the permission of the road user or the Gardaí when it's in a situation like this. If it's in the live lane, we remove it immediately because it's an immediate danger to the road user. But in these situations, we must get permission from the road user, or the vehicle owner, I should say, and the Gardaí. So the other element then is grass cutting. So they have 174 kilometres of grass to cut every year, 5 times a year. We have 2 crews throughout the network constantly keeping on top of this. That involves, the reason I put in lane closures, that involves coordination. As you can see here on the image on the right-hand side, you can see the traffic is moving in one direction, where due to the nature of the vehicles and how they can cut the hedge in the middle, they're moving in the opposite direction. So this is a high-risk activity, but it's something we manage every year, and thankfully we've had no incidents, but it's something we have to keep an eye on. And with advance notice, then we're obviously letting people know where we can that there will be lane closures, and please expect those as they come along. Just quickly then on weed control, obviously we've got invasive species. I want to just note that we've increased in prevalence of Japanese knotweed along the network. Thankfully, we have one location that we're getting top of Japanese knotweed, but also there's the giant hogweed, Himalayan balsam, etc. that we deal with in Ireland. Something out of that then is the continuous training and upskilling of the staff to deal with these occurrences, and how we get rid of them on an annual basis or as it may arise. Drainage replacement works. Just wanted to note that you're constantly observing and inspecting your changing of site conditions, especially after heavy rains, weather events, etc. Here you can see a herringbone and drain being installed. This is where an incident where a spring that may not have been, probably wasn't evident during construction stage for whatever reason, started to pop up and was causing problems. And then we have to intervene to make sure that we haven't got problems with our assets that are going to impair on the safety of the road user. So in these instances, you're installing herringbone drains, fin drains, etc. Here's just images of our drainage maintenance works, where we're renewing the drainage stone in the filter drain along the edge of the carriageway. And then I want to just point out that as you take over existing networks, which we have in the Gorey and Arklow bypass, the other sections need a bit more looking after, and some things may get slipped. As you can see here on the left, the beadage that's starting to collapse. So something we need to maintain and keep an eye on. And on the right-hand side, the image may look like a burst water main, but it isn't. It's a landowner's or an agriculture and land drain that wasn't connected into the mainline drainage. And when you get severe weather events, it's the kind of problems that can pause up and can become a serious problem for us as they're impacting on the safety of the road user. Something else I wanted to point out very quickly is that we can have issues, not many thankfully, where adjacent landowners, they can carry out works in their fields that might sort a problem for them, but it can create a problem for us. So you can see here on the left that a V ditch that's almost overwhelmed by the amount of water that it wasn't designed to take. And this can cause problems in the image on the right-hand side, which is not fantastic. But if you can make it out, those straps that are running from right to left down past the purple ducting, they're the reinforcement straps that are out of the back of RECO panel for an underpass. So after your heavy rain periods or adverse weather events, we've got to be out and inspect it. We've got to carry out remedial works before this becomes a serious problem, where there's detrimental to the structural integrity of the access structure. So also then we have storm and weather damage that can happen. During the alerts we get from Met Air, we're out there dealing with any of those incidents, whether it be fallen trees, etc. We have to be out there 24/7, keep an eye on those things. And before I finish, I was going to say that when we've done all of the above, or that I've poured years off here now for the last 25 minutes, and we think we've got it all covered through our inspections and our asset management and life cycle intervention, someone comes along and just robs our fencing around our attenuation pond. So you can't allow for that, I'm afraid. It's something we've noticed over the last while. As the price of waste metal starts to increase, we've got interested parties in our metal assets, such as gates and fencing along the road. So thanks very much for your time. I hope I've been as formative as I possibly can on what goes on in the operations and maintenance on the PPP networks that we operate. As I said, thank you very much for your time, and thanks, Christine. Thanks, Sinead.